Once upon a time, he was the crown jewel of British boxing. He arrived at premieres in Ferraris, flipped into the ring with effortless acrobatics, and earned fortunes with each punch. That was the world of Prince Naseem Hamed, the flamboyant featherweight who transformed boxing into theater and turned arrogance into an art form. But fast forward to 2025, and the tale has taken a grim turn. The man who once dazzled crowds with his swagger now lives quietly, away from the spotlight he once craved. Fans are left wondering, what became of the prince? Why did he vanish at the very peak of his fame? Does he still live in luxury? Or is there something more tragic behind the silence? At 51, Naseem Hamed is barely recognizable from the cocky prodigy who ruled the 1990s. This is the story of his rise, his wealth, his downfall, and the long years of battles fought in the shadows. His journey began far from the glamour of Las Vegas or Madison Square Garden. Born February 12, 1974, in Sheffield, England, he was the child of Yemeni immigrants who labored tirelessly just to provide. He grew up in a cramped house filled with 9 siblings, where money was scarce and survival was a daily effort. On the rough streets of Sheffield, many boys were swallowed by distractions, but young Naseem carried an uncontainable energy, a restless drive. At just 7 years old, he stood in front of mirrors, imitating Muhammad Ali, shadow boxing, dancing, and proclaiming he would one day be greater than Sugar Ray Leonard. His family laughed, his neighbors rolled their eyes, but he believed every word. Everything shifted the moment he walked into Brendan Ingle's gym. Ingle, eccentric but brilliant, recognized something extraordinary. Naseem wasn't just quick, he was elusive, untouchable. Under Ingle's guidance, he learned rhythm, balance, patience, and unpredictability. He trained to reggae, fought to odd beats, and struck from impossible angles. "Don't just fight," Ingle told him. "Entertain." And that's exactly what Naseem did. But Ingle couldn't teach what Naseem already had: raw, explosive knockout power. By his teens, he was dropping grown men in sparring, folding them with punches that seemed to defy physics. Word spread quickly. This skinny Yemeni kid from Sheffield wasn't just good, he was terrifying. In 1992, he made his professional debut on live TV. Rather than acting like a nervous newcomer, he strutted into the ring smiling and dancing, then flattened his opponent in 2 rounds. Audiences were torn between disgust at his cockiness and awe at his talent. From that night forward, Britain had a dilemma. Was he a clown destined to burn out, or a prodigy who would save British boxing? He dubbed himself the Prince, and whether loved or hated, he demanded attention. His confidence bordered on madness, his reflexes seemed otherworldly, and his power ended fights in seconds. By 21, he was no longer just Sheffield's pride. He was Britain's most polarizing athlete. By the mid-1990s, the Prince had stormed the featherweight division. Every bout became a spectacle. In 1995, he faced Steve Robinson for the WBO featherweight crown in Cardiff, entering to jeers and mockery from the hostile crowd. But once the fight began, everything flipped. Naseem danced around Robinson, taunted him with his hands down, and countered with venom. By the 8th round, Robinson was finished. Cardiff fell silent, and a new champion was born. From that point, Naseem's career became more performance than sport. He entered arenas on flying carpets, somersaulted into rings, and strutted in leopard print shorts under fireworks. Traditionalists hated it, calling him disrespectful. Fans adored it, screaming his name before he even threw a punch. And crucially, he delivered. One by one, opponents fell, often humiliated before they were knocked senseless. To immigrant families across Britain, he was a hero, proof that someone from their background could dominate the world stage. By 1997, America came calling. HBO gave him the red carpet, hungry for a new star. His U.S. debut against Kevin Kelly at Madison Square Garden was instant legend. Knockdowns went both ways, chaos reigned, but in the fourth round, Naseem landed a thunderous left that ended it. The crowd erupted. America had never seen anyone like him. Overnight, he became a global sensation, compared to Ali for his charisma and Tyson for his power, yet still wholly unique. With each win, his fame exploded. But beneath the glitter, the seeds of downfall were quietly taking root. By the late 1990s, Naseem wasn't just a champion. He was an empire. His ring walks were as long as the fights themselves. He wore crowns and capes, proclaiming, "I don't need luck, I have Allah," before dispatching rivals in brutal fashion. Fans were divided. Half adored him, half despised him. But everyone watched. He lived like royalty outside the ring, surrounded by mansions, Ferraris, and diamond-encrusted watches. Yet something essential was slipping. His relationship with Brendan Ingle fractured. The discipline that had shaped his style clashed with Naseem's growing ego. Eventually, the partnership ended bitterly. Without Ingle, his training camps unraveled. Shorter sessions, softer sparring, and poor diet choices. He grew bulkier, losing the sharpness that once made him untouchable. Still, he kept winning, unifying belts and crushing contenders. But whispers grew louder. His reflexes weren't the same, his timing was off, and making weight was harder. He ignored the warnings, basking in his celebrity, until one night shattered it all. April 7th, 2001, MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Across from him stood Marco Antonio Barrera, Mexico's ruthless technician. The fight was meant to be Naseem's coronation, his crowning moment in America. But from the opening bell, Barrera exposed him. Disciplined and calculated, Barrera dismantled Naseem's wild style. Every reckless swing was countered. Every flashy move was punished. By the mid-rounds, the confidence drained from the prince's face. By the 12th, Barrera humiliated him, shoving his head into the turnbuckle before the final bell. The decision was unanimous, but the truth was clear long before the cards were read. The myth was destroyed. Naseem left the arena with his head down, silent. The man who vowed never to lose had been broken. He never demanded a rematch, never raged, never promised revenge. Instead, he disappeared. Broadcasters begged, promoters waved millions, but months turned to years. When he finally returned in 2002 against Manuel Calvo, fans expected a statement. Instead, they got 12 dull rounds, no backflips, no knockouts, no magic. For the first time, he was booed by his own supporters. At just 28, with only one defeat, he walked away from boxing without farewell or closure. Wealth sustained him. An estimated $38 million net worth kept him in luxury. But money without purpose is poison. He gained weight, avoided the spotlight, and withdrew from the sport entirely. Unlike Lewis, Tyson, or Hopkins, he refused commentary, mentoring, or even interviews. Over time, fans began to forget. He became a ghost, remembered not for his brilliance, but for the way he vanished. Then came 2005. Behind the wheel of a $325,000 Mercedes SLR McLaren, he drove recklessly through South Yorkshire until a devastating head-on collision left Anthony Bergen, an innocent driver, permanently injured. Naseem survived, but the investigation revealed speeding and reckless behavior, compounded by lack of insurance. The prince, who once claimed divine protection, was now just a man facing prison. In 2006, he was sentenced to 15 months. Though released after 16 weeks, the damage was irreversible. His reputation collapsed, tabloids savaged him, and his name became synonymous with arrogance and waste. Years passed in silence. Boxing moved on, and new stars took his place. His 2015 Hall of Fame induction was expected to reignite his spirit, but his acceptance speech was flat and lifeless, leaving fans heartbroken. Instead of the flamboyant showman, they saw a weary man haunted by his past. Meanwhile, younger fighters idolized Mayweather, Pacquiao, or Khan. Naseem was becoming a forgotten relic. Today, at 51, the transformation is jarring. The once ripped featherweight now struggles with his weight and mobility, his public appearances marked by shock at how much he has changed. Photos spark disbelief. Is that really Prince Naz? Beneath it all lies a deeper tragedy, the absence of purpose. He never wrote a book, never opened a gym, never reclaimed his story. To younger fans, he is little more than a faded highlight reel. Yet in private, glimpses remain. He encourages his sons, whispers advice to young Yemeni boxers, occasionally steps into gyms. Some say his faith has deepened, steering him away from fame. Others insist the Barrera fight shattered more than his career. It shattered his spirit. Whatever the case, the prince has chosen silence. His health continues to decline. Weight gain, knee pain, fatigue. The man who once floated across the ring now struggles with simple steps. But the greatest tragedy isn't the loss to Barrera, nor the prison term. It's that he denied himself a second act. Boxing is a sport built on redemption. Foreman returned at 45. Tyson reinvented himself at 54. Countless others fell, only to rise again. But Naseem never tried. He left his story unfinished. And yet, the final word hasn't been written. He doesn't need to fight again. His charisma, his knowledge, his story could still inspire if he chose to share it. The world still waits, hoping he'll speak, train, or simply explain his silence. Until then, his legacy is suspended between brilliance and regret. A legend defined as much by what he did in the ring as by what